Love is in the air, and tonight's quilt is bursting with love because we're making a modern bursting star quilt with some half square triangles and love. So this modern bursting star quilt pattern was designed by the Cloth Parcel, and it features the beautiful lily and loom fabric. It uses half square triangles to create a bursting effect on our quilt. So where are my Midnight Quilters at? Leave a comment below and let all our new subscribers know what they're in for with the Midnight Quilt Show. So I'm going to open up my beautiful charm squares. I'm going to cut up the background fabric, and since it's the month of love, I think I'm going to share my tips for maintaining a long-term relationship with a quilter. I mean, the first tip is obviously don't judge how attached that quilter can become to fabric, because it's just so pretty and lovely and makes everything right in the world. Obviously, I don't have to cut any of the charm squares because they're perfect just how they are. But this background fabric, which has a lovely tonal print to it, will need to be cut up into some squares, some bigger squares and smaller squares, so I can make some of those half square triangles. And if you want to maintain a long-term relationship with a quilter, get used to the term half square triangle, or as we like to say, HSTs. If you don't know what we're talking about, just smile and nod. It usually saves you the trouble. Another way to have a long-term relationship with a quilter is to build them a design wall. I mean, especially if they've asked a couple times. But if you don't have a design wall because somebody hasn't made you one, there are workarounds. Instead of laying out the whole quilt, you can lay out the most important element and build off of it, which is what I'm going to do in this quilt. We're going to start with the center star, which isn't at the top or the bottom, or really in the center, but it is the most important element of the quilt. So we'll lay that out, and then I'll build it out as I go. And there I have a scrappy, beautiful star just by arranging my half square triangles like this. Now I'm not paying too much attention to the fabric placement because I'm going to get this quilt done pretty quick. Now what I'm going to do is sew the blocks together in rows and then sew the rows together. So the main important star of my quilt is finished, and you want to know another way to have a great relationship with a quilter? Don't point out areas that the points don't match. That's just never a good thing. Now that I have this, we're going to start building around it to see the bursting effect of our modern star. So I've laid out the next ring of my star with my half square triangles, and I'm going to assemble that section and then keep building off of it section by section, of course referring to the quilt layout diagram so that I don't accidentally, lay it out wrong. Well, I'm going to get sewing this together so we can see what the bursting star looks like. So we have the star, the sides, and the bottom, and this is where we start to see that offset nature come out. Well, I'm going to piece this together and then we'll see the top part and how it all looks. My modern bursting star quilt top is finished, and this is where we get to see that bursting effect with all the background fabric that's just begging for a lot of machine quilting. I think it's going to be a good time. Except first, I got to make the quilt sandwich, so I'm going to do that, and I'll see you in just a bit. The sandwich is done, and it reminds me of one of the most important ways to maintain that friendship or relationship with a quilter is to understand when they say, I need to quilt right now. When they get that little wild look in their eyes, it's just best to let them go quilt, which is what I'm going to do right now. Starting from the center of the square, I'm going to quilt a serpentine S-like shape that goes to the opposite point. Then I'm going to fill in one side of that S with another line that curves out, touching the first curve, traveling back, and adding a second one to fill in that area. Echoing the shape I first quilted will get me back to the center of the star. Then I'll add a couple more little shapes to fill in that side. This design will bring me back to the center where I can quilt the next section of my star, quilting that S shape, filling in one side of it, echoing, and filling in the other. I'm going to repeat in all 8 sections of the star until it's all finished. I'm loving how all that thread is going to really draw your eye to the center of that bursting star. Now in the squares around it, I think I'm going to do something a little more swirly to really add some beautiful texture with this gold thread. Starting from one point of the star, I'm going to quilt a diagonal line that continues on to the next point and then echo that shape. This bit of unquilted area is going to help separate it from the dense swirl filler I'm using in the rest of the area. It's as easy as quilting an elongated swirl, echoing, and then adding my next swirl. The most important thing here is that I just fill in the whole area with those swirls and echo lines. Normally, I don't like to use such a contrasting thread, but it's adding a beautiful texture and a nice shading to the background area. But that means I've got a lot more to do, so I'm gonna get to it and I'll show you what it looks like when it's all done. This quilt is finished and I am loving how it turned out. That modern bursting effect with the offset star was the perfect palette for playing around with all the different quilting textures. From echo lines to swirls to that beautiful motif in the star, I'm so happy with how this turned out. And as our Valentine's Day gift to you, you can get this pattern for free at Blueprint. While you're there, check out more Valentine's Day project ideas to make for your special someone. They even have an ombre heart block quilt project with step-by-step directions. So I bet you have even better tips for maintaining a relationship with a quilter. I'd love to hear about them in the comments below. Happy Valentine's Day from the Midnight Quilt Show.